Hi, night listeners. Craving a soft mystery to unwind? Unsolved Mysteries offers calm. Get cozy. Let us explore. Have you ever wondered what it truly means to survive against all odds? Step into the bone chilling world of medieval winters, where nature itself seemed to sneer daring peasants to endure. While fairy tales paint pictures of snug castles and crackling hearths, the harsh truth for most was a life spent in nature's cruelest icebox. Imagine waking before dawn in a home colder than a stranger's. Scorn knowing the day ahead would test your very soul. To put this into sharp focus, while we grumble over heating bills or a thermostat dipping below 65 degrees, Fahrenheit medieval peasants faced winters in Europe that could plunge to a staggering 0 degrees Fahrenheit in regions like England and northern France. That is cold enough to freeze your boots to the earth, a reality they encountered far too often. Their daily struggle began in the dark, dragging weary bodies from icy beds to tend livestock or tackle endless chores. One medieval scribe wrote of peasants waking with frost, clinging to their eyebrows, a brutal wake up call from the past, and their beds. Forget comfort. These were crude heaps of hay and straw slapped together on frigid dirt floors, a desperate DIY effort to fend off the cold. Yet astonishingly, studies of medieval homes reveal these hay beds, often 2 feet thick, were like king-sized mattresses of farm scraps gathered in summer and layered deep to shield against frozen ground. Each morning, they shook out their bedding, uncovering odd surprises, mice nesting overnight bugs, feasting, or as one old text recounts, a peasant finding a chicken had laid an egg in his bed, a bizarre twist on breakfast in bed. The brilliance of hay beds lay in their insulation trapping air, like nature's own bubble wrap to hold fleeting warmth. Peasants piled on old rags, tattered blankets, even dried moss, and on bitter nights swapped compressed hay for fresh to preserve heat. But dampness was the enemy. In the soggy medieval climate beds, turned musty a nightmare for anyone with allergies, as no remedy awaited at the village healer. One noble forced to sleep in a peasant's hut griped for weeks about sneezing so fiercely he feared losing his nose. These hay piles weren't just beds. By day they became seating for rare visitors, medieval beanbags, far from charming. Still they had one edge over modern mattresses, bed bugs, shunned hay for fabric. And then there was wool, the peasant's winter armor, a superhero cape against hypothermia. Historians estimate a family might own 20 pounds of wool clothing, the weight of a small child, warming them while sparking relentless itches. Each spring, shepherds sheared sheep and peasants bartered for raw wool, crafting their lifeline against the cold with grit and ingenuity. Can you feel their resilience burning through the centuries? Are you ready to draw strength from their unyielding fight? Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to survive a winter with nothing but raw grit and wool? Let me take you back to the medieval era, where peasants battled brutal cold with little more than sheep's fleece and sheer willpower. Picture this wool straight from the flock, unprocessed and rough kneading hours of grueling cleaning, carding, and spinning just to become wearable. And you thought your laundry day was a chore? Here's a tidbit to make you grateful for your closet medieval wool retained lanolin, the sheep's natural oil, making it water resistant. Yes, it reeked of wet sheep in the rain, but the water slid right off. Some savvy peasants left extra lanolin in their garments to stay drier though they likely weren't scoring invites to the Lord's feast smelling like a barnyard. Washing wool was rare, and for good reason. Wet wool in freezing winters could turn you into a human icicle. One old tale speaks of a peasant named Halric who washed his coat in winter only to find it frozen so stiff it stood upright alone, becoming the village jest as rigid as Halric's winter wash. But wool had flaws. It drew fleas like a magnet. Peasants hung their clothes near smoky fires to repel the pests, ending up smelling like a mix of sheep and charred wood. Call it medieval peasant cologne. Yet wool's magic shone in brutal storms. Modern tests prove wet wool retains 80% of its warmth, a fact peasants knew from trudging through blizzards bundled in layers like walking haystacks. One layer was never enough in those savage winters. These resourceful folks piled on 4 to 7 layers, looking like they'd looted every clothesline in sight. Imagine the daily battle: a long linen shirt down to the knees, topped by a wool tunic, then another, because why stop there, followed by a sleeveless jerkin, and if fortune smiled, a fur-lined cloak, all cinched with a rope belt to keep it from slipping off. Getting dressed was a workout. One story tells of a peasant so tangled in his layers, his wife rolled him across the floor like a barrel to free him. And you thought skinny jeans were a struggle. Science backs their strategy: multiple thin layers trap heat better than one thick one. A truth peasants learned through frozen toes and countless mishaps. Nature's call turned into an epic quest with all that gear. Some even avoided water just to skip the hassle of undressing. Children fared worse, bundled so tight they waddled like tiny penguins rolling down hills because their knees wouldn't bend. A medieval writer quipped, "You could spot the kids. In winter, they were the round bundles tumbling through the village. Even with layers, warmth demanded more. Enter the heart of every medieval home. The fireplace, a lifeline that could either save you or choke you with smoke. Are you ready to appreciate the grit of those who came before us, turning raw wool into their shield against the cold? Their story is a testament to human endurance. Let it inspire you to face your own winters, whatever they may be. Imagine stepping into a medieval home where a smoky fire pit reigns as the heart of survival. What secrets does its flickering glow hold for us today? Picture this: a crude, 3 foot wide pit in the center of a drafty room, encircled by rough stones with smoke swirling wherever it pleases, because medieval architects had not yet mastered the art of chimneys. Only a measly 15% of the heat lingers to warm the shivering souls inside. The rest escapes through gaping roof holes, meant for smoke, but welcoming snow instead. These peasants and their frost-bitten ingenuity crafted the world's most inefficient heater. Fuel forget neatly chopped firewood. That luxury belonged to lords. Common folk burned whatever they could scavenge: splintered furniture, broken tools, or a neighbor's fence that vanished under the cover of a brutal winter night. Historical whispers from an English village tell of desperate peasants dismantling an abandoned barn, piece by piece, to feed their flames through a merciless cold snap, much to the local lord's fury. Starting the fire each morning was its own epic quest. They'd guard a single coal overnight, buried in ashes, knowing its loss meant a frigid trek to beg a spark from a neighbor. One tale speaks of a man racing home with a glowing coal cradled in a hollowed out turnip, sprinting so fiercely that villagers swore demons chased him. The smoke, a double edged sword, stung their eyes and shaved years off their lives, yet it warded off pests and unintentionally preserved roof timbers. Modern studies reveal soot layered beams enduring centuries. Families devised their own fire tending rituals. Some took turns through the night to keep the blaze alive, others perfected the art of banking coals. Whispers to the flames, while adding fuel, were said to coax a stronger burn, perhaps just the smoke clouding their weary minds. After battling cold and choking haze, they craved warmth from within. Winter meals were a gamble, a bizarre game of what's in the pot with a mere 7 or 8 staples, mostly gnarled root vegetables, like turnips, parsnips, and the ominously named neeps, looking more cursed than cultivated. The daily ritual was simple: toss everything into a pot over the fire, add water, and hope for something edible. Records reveal desperate creativity: tree bark for fiber pebbles, for minerals, even leather for protein. One family, in a fit of hunger, cooked their wooden spoon, insisting it added flavor. Yet these hardy souls were masters of preservation, storing summer's bounty in sand or cool dark corners, salting or smoking scarce meat. Their neighbors bartered for their secrets. 3 turnips for a meat smoking trick was a steal. They were also foragers, supreme wielding knowledge of wild herbs like poor man's pepper to elevate their stews or mask the taste of questionable leftovers. Are you seeing their grit, their relentless will to endure? Let their story fuel your own fire. Whatever harsh winter you face, know that resilience burns brighter than any flame. Will you rise to meet your challenges as they did against all odds? Have you ever wondered how people survived the harshest winters centuries ago with nothing but grit and ingenuity? Picture this: medieval peasants huddled in homes that doubled as fortresses against the cold, sharing their living space with cows, pigs, and chickens just to stay warm. Their stew pots bubbled with mystery ingredients, while bundles of dried summer herbs hung from the rafters, transforming their homes into something out of a medieval apothecary. These herbs were not just for flavor, they were lifelines packed with medicinal power to fend off winter illnesses, crucial when every breath was laced with smoke from their fires. At night, families gathered around the perpetual stew, swapping gossip, trying not to dwell on what might be lurking in their bowls. But they were not alone. Up to 30% of their homes were shared with animals during the frigid months. Cows radiated heat like small fireplaces, generating warmth equivalent to 5,000 BTUs per hour. Peasants did not know the term, but they knew sleeping near a cow meant waking with all their toes intact. Pigs became portable heaters, chickens, feathered foot warmers, and sheep, walking blankets. Imagine the chaos of dining with a pig nosing into your meal, despite low barriers, meant to keep them at bay barriers. The animals treated as mere suggestions. Nighttime was a symphony of moose snores and random chicken outbursts. One traveling merchant even swore a rooster held a personal grudge, crowing in his ear each time he drifted off. Yet these animal roommates were more than heaters. They were early warning systems against thieves. Try sneaking past a paranoid goose, and their breath kept rooms humid, making them feel 3 to 4 degrees warmer, a fact modern science confirms. Peasants even had housing rules: chickens by windows to catch dawn's light, larger beasts near stone walls to reflect heat. It was a medieval homeowners association, just with more manure. Outside, they turned their homes into fortresses, burying half underground. For insulation, archaeological digs reveal 40% of northern European peasant homes were partially submerged. The Earth's steady temperature, 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, a few feet down, kept them warmer. In winter, cooler in summer, a natural geothermal trick they called common sense. They dug down 3 to 4 feet, built walls of straw, mudstones, or wood, whatever they could scavenge, and crafted homes that defied the elements. Are you inspired by their resilience? Can you feel their determination to survive against all odds? Let their story fuel you to face your own challenges with unbreakable resolve. Have you ever wondered how anyone survived a medieval winter with nothing but sheer grit and ingenuity? Picture this resourceful peasants scraping by in a world of ice and hardship, stealing stones from crumbling Roman ruins to build homes that were half ramshackle hovel, half ancient empire. The local lords despised this scrappy recycling, but when you are shivering in the dark, a stone is a stone. These clever folks tackled drafts with a genius mix of mud straw and animal dung, stuffing every crack to slash heat loss by an incredible 60%, as tests on rebuilt homes reveal. It also gave a whole new twist to calling a place a dump. Their single doors faced away from brutal winds, a stroke of medieval design often leading through a tight tunnel. One writer likened to a dragon's throat, though, with livestock indoors, the stench might have matched. Roofs stacked like giant sandwiches, branches, straw, more branches, more straw, even turf held together by grass roots, doubling as goat grazing spots for the bold. But a sturdy house was only half the fight against winter's wrath. Stepping outside demanded tools that would stun today's survival gurus. Archaeological digs uncover that peasants owned 6 to 8 vital winter tools, heirlooms of life or death, each meticulously kept. The snow shovel reigned supreme, carved from hardwood, outdoing modern plastic by moving 30% more snow per scoop, though wielding one felt like hauling a toddler. Thick socks, woven with rabbit fur, were as precious as gold market records. Price them equal to a chicken one wearer even feared his feet might roast. Then there was the snow scorer, a stick marking paths in blinding drifts, some villages, painting them with berry juice for a primitive GPS. Mittens, not gloves, were the unsung heroes, stuffed with moss or cat hair, proving long before science that bundled fingers trap heat best. Ready at a moment's notice, peasants predicted storms with eerie accuracy. Cows huddling meant trouble. Pigs hoarding straw signaled cold. It was not high tech, but it worked. These medieval tricks, from underground shelters to fur lined socks, scream human resilience. They crafted a survival manual, one brutal winter at a time. So, are you ready to channel that unbreakable spirit and face your own storms head on?